All right, diving in today, folks, we're looking at Pokhara, Nepal. This place is known for its incredible beauty, right? The tourism. But behind that stunning scenery, there are some serious wash challenges, water sanitation and hygiene. Big time. So we got this really detailed report, thanks to you, and we're going to try to break it down, extract the key takeaways here for everybody. Starting with the basics, is there even enough water? And if there is it actually clean? Then we got to look at all the waste. How is it managed and how is climate change adding to all these problems? Big question. So essentially our mission today is to figure out the core issues affecting this city. Exactly. Now the big question we really want to answer for you is what's the single most pressing wash problem facing Pokhara? Right? And what does that tell us about the bigger picture? Yeah, it's all connected. It is all connected. So let's start with that water supply. Okay, it sounds like just straight up demand is way higher than what they can actually provide. It is, yeah, those projections from a few years back, they've become reality. Unfortunately, they need something like 87 million litres of water every single day, every day. Yeah, wow. And even after this recent project, they're only producing around 62 million, so it's not even close, not even close. And it's interesting, this JICA-funded project, right, this was supposed to help, it was supposed to, but it actually caused a small decrease in the distribution. Really? Yeah, like 5 million litres a day less. That's wild. How does that even happen? Well, it seems like when they upgraded the system, they didn't fully account for just how fast the city is growing. So the population just exploded, exactly. So it shows that just improving treatment isn't enough. The whole distribution network has got to keep up with all those people, right? So it's got to be future-proof, essentially. Exactly. Okay, so that's just about having enough water, but then there's the quality issue. Huge issue. You've got microbial contamination in the Mardi watershed. That's a key source, right? Key source, yeah. And there are studies showing fecal contamination in all the lakes in Pokhara. All of them, all 8. And we're talking antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Oh, that's a scary thought. It is. And during the wet season, you've got coliform bacteria in all the major water sources. So even bottled water, even borehole water, there's no guarantee. So basically, they're struggling to get clean water to everyone. Pretty much. All right, so then what happens to the wastewater? Well, that's a whole other can of worms. I was going to say that's a whole other problem because over 85% of the people there rely on septic tanks, which they're not a bad thing, right? No, they can contain the waste, but that sludge needs special treatment. And that's where Nepal really falls short. Like, how short are we talking? Only a tiny percentage of wastewater gets treated properly nationwide. Wow, so where does it all go then? A lot of it ends up in the Seti River and the streams that flow into Fewa Lake. So that beautiful lake we all see in the pictures. The very same, but there are efforts to change this, luckily. That's good. What are they doing? Well, JICA is helping with a master plan, and the government wants to prioritize a project that tackles both water supply and wastewater treatment together. Sounds like a good idea. It does, but right now, all that untreated sewage, it's polluting the water, it's causing diseases, and that's a risk to both locals and tourists, right? Absolutely. And then we got to factor in all the solid waste, right? Yeah, they produce a massive amount every single day. Do they have a plan for dealing with all that? They do have collection and some processing, but they're struggling with the sheer volume, not enough vehicles to collect it all and finding safe places to dispose of it. And what about the stuff that doesn't get collected properly? Well, that's a problem. There's a temporary waste site near a river which risks contaminating the water with leachate. Leachate, that's that liquid that seeps out, right? Exactly, it's nasty stuff, right? And I imagine all that garbage attracts pests too. Absolutely, creating breeding grounds for disease-carrying insects and rodents. Okay, so we've got issues with water supply, wastewater, solid waste. What about just basic hygiene practices? Well, there's a real shortage of public toilets. Wow, so where do people go? That's a good question. But the good news is that in slum areas, most households have their own latrines. Oh, that's something at least. It is. And a decent number of people report washing their hands with soap after using the toilet. Okay, so there's some awareness there. There is, but there are still gaps, and the local regulations could be better. In what way? They could be more focused on hygiene and the needs of vulnerable populations like those in those slum areas. Makes sense. And we can't forget about climate change, right? We can't. It's making everything worse. How so? Well, Nepal is getting hotter faster than the global average, and the rainfall is becoming unpredictable. So too much rain sometimes, not enough other times. Exactly. And then you've got the Himalayan glaciers melting, and those are a vital water source. They are, but they're shrinking, which means less water in the long run and a higher risk of those glacial lake outburst floods, GLOFs. Right, those are devastating. They are, and even heavy rainfall events can damage the existing wash infrastructure. So all these problems are just compounding on each other. Exactly, it's a complex web. Okay, so we've laid out all these issues. What's the real-world impact on people's health? It's not good. Over 80% of diseases in Nepal are linked to contaminated water. 80%. That's a staggering number, it is. And diarrheal illnesses are a major killer of young children. That's heartbreaking, it is. And it goes back to those high levels of coliform bacteria in the water. That's a clear sign of fecal contamination. It is. And if children are drinking that water, it can lead to malnutrition and stunting. So this isn't just about inconvenience. It's life or death for some people, absolutely. Now, it sounds like they're trying to improve things, but it's an uphill battle. It is. There are projects in the works, but they're facing all sorts of obstacles. Like what? Well, they haven't always planned for the rapid population growth, and then there's the issue of funding for those treatment plants, and then there's the challenge of regulating wastewater disposal. Right. Make sure everyone follows the rules. Exactly. And then there's the human element, changing people's behavior around waste management. Because even with the best infrastructure, if people aren't using it properly, it's all for nothing. Right, so it's a multifaceted problem. It is very complex. Okay, so after looking at all this, what would you say is the most urgent wash problem in Pokhara right now? It has to be the mismanagement of wastewater and fecal sludge. Basically, all the stuff that comes out of our houses. Exactly, because it's directly polluting the water sources, and that's the biggest threat to public health right now. It's like a domino effect, right? Exactly, all starts there. Okay, so we've gone deep into this report on Pokhara. Why should our listeners care about this? Because what's happening in Pokhara is a microcosm of a global issue. Well, it shows us that even in a place known for its natural beauty, basic infrastructure gaps can have a ripple effect, affecting everything. The health of the people, the environment, even the economy, especially if you're reliant on tourism. And Pokhara definitely relies on tourism. Absolutely. So it's like this cautionary tale, right? In a way, yeah, that even paradise can be threatened by these fundamental issues. Exactly. And so we leave you with this. How might these wash challenges affect Pokhara's long-term appeal to tourists? Right. Will people still want to visit if these issues aren't addressed? And what kind of solutions can they implement to fix these complex problems? And how can they make sure those solutions are sustainable for the future? Lots to think about, a lot to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, folks. Thanks for having me. We'll catch you next time.